How you doing? Dom Tiberi joined by Adam King, and Ryan Day made it official today. Kyle McCord is the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. Devon Brown's going to be his backup. Coach Day said, Adam, that he felt that way after the game, but he wanted to wait, look at the film. He looked at it, and so then here on Tuesday morning, he told both guys his decision. He said that Kyle, does not show a lot of emotion and was pretty calm about it. Devon understood, but he also said he wants to play Devon Brown. And don't get me wrong, I think Devon Brown can be a great quarterback here too. I just think right now, when the chips were on the line in week 1 with Indiana, and Ohio State was up, 10-3 at halftime, he felt the best way to win that game was going with Kyle McCord, and it makes sense. The guy is a 3-year guy here. He's been a backup. He understands how the things work here. He's shown a lot of poise, and I think, if anything, that game against Youngstown State, and I don't want to make Youngstown better than they are, but that game was kind of like his coming out party because he really looked comfortable out there.
I thought it was a QB tryout in front of 100,000 fans. We all got to see it. Devon Brown actually played more snaps than Kyle McCord, which I thought was interesting. And I don't think that anybody walked away from that thinking this was Devon Brown's job. I think today was just solidifying what we all kind of knew, which is that Kyle McCord is ready to be the starter at Ohio State. The 3 words that stuck out to me were peace of mind. That is what Kyle McCord gets from being named the starter. He's not looking over his shoulder anymore, wondering, is this going to be my drive? Is this going to be my snap? Is that interception where I have to go sit on the bench now and Devon gets a chance to show himself? And I think that's important because the Buckeyes just have 60 minutes of football left before they head up to South Bend, Indiana. So you want a guy to go in, and I think Kyle McCord, whether this game is 40-0, whether it's 100-0, should play until the final snap of this game. I know he said he wants to work Devon in, and I'm not smarter than Ryan Day. So if he thinks that Devon can help this offense, I get that. But I think really it should be Kyle every snap out there, getting the chance to get those reps. He said he's getting more reps now with the ones in practice, which is important because through all of this, they've been splitting them. Now it's Kyle's team. Let Kyle go get ready for what is a massive game. And now, 11 days, if my math is right, maybe less.
Well, and the thing is, I want to also caution you, my friend, is Western Kentucky, don't sleep on these guys because this game could turn into a shootout. I don't want it to. I hope the defense is up to the challenge, but I think Ohio State will be able to score on these guys. Teams have been able to do that. But this team's scoring 50 points a game. I mean, they are going to get off the bus and they are going to throw. And the one bugaboo that Ohio State has had the last couple of years is pass defense. They are going to get challenged. This is a wonderful game to play if you want to gauge where your defense is, but it makes me nervous because, the week after that, you've got a huge game that's looming. And, don't sleep on Notre Dame. Notre Dame they've beaten everyone. What you think they're going to be. But then this Western Kentucky, I'm telling you, folks, people are going, they'll just why would they even schedule Western Kentucky? I wish they didn't have Western Kentucky on the schedule because to me it's a booby trap game from the standpoint you got this huge game looming at Notre Dame. And Ryan Day didn't even want to get into it. He says, we can't even think like that. We're not that team, worrying about looking over or having a letdown because this is the wrong team to play. And I don't want to see him get into a shootout with this team because they led the country last year in throwing the football.
Yeah. I think whoever put the schedule together for the last 2 years did a phenomenal job. Last year's Buckeye team needed to start with that Notre Dame game. It was perfect. It was amazing. It was great college football. This year's team needed exactly these 3 games. They were tested at Indiana. They faced a triple option that they admit they weren't prepared for. Then they get a Youngstown State team to figure out their offense, to figure out their starting quarterback. And now they get a Western Kentucky team. I know you say you're worried about them. That is a middle-of-the-road team. They're not Notre Dame, but they're also not Youngstown State. This defense is going to be tested in a way we haven't seen since the Georgia game, since the Michigan game.
Well, I don't know that we've played any team that's going to throw like these guys. I mean, even Ryan Day, even Ryan Day said he couldn't. He said the closest was Indiana a few years ago.
Yeah, and now I will say, I think when you look at a team like Western Kentucky that throws that much, it allows you to kind of back off with your defense, knowing they're not going to run the ball down your throat. So you allow those linebackers to prepare for the pass. You allowed to get a couple more secondary guys on the field, but you're going to see this defense tested. You're going to see the best in America, BIA, put to the test, and you're going to find out real quick if they are ready for Notre Dame. And on the offensive side of the ball, I think this is where you dial up your playbook for Notre Dame. And I understand you can't look past Western Kentucky, and there's a real chance that this is a game at halftime in the shoe. But the ultimate thing here for the Buckeyes is every of these first 3 games has been a different thing. It's almost been a glorified practice the first 2 weeks, albeit not an easy practice, but Ryan Day testing things out, and I think this is the perfect way to finish it off before things get real.
Well, and yeah, I don't like Western Kentucky in this position. I wish we would have played Western Kentucky instead of Youngstown State, and then Youngstown State going.
Well, then you've got the problem of not having a quarterback going against Youngstown.
Well, I think we would have. I think Ryan Day knew all along who the quarterback was going to be.
I would agree.
It's just that this team is, and we're going to see. You know, I think Denzel Burke getting that pick, that was a big. But we're going to see if the secondary's fixed. My big concern, and Ryan was asked about it, and he wants to see a better job. They got to get a rush on the quarterback, and that's, to me, this has got to be an emphasis. We need to see the defensive ends get after that quarterback this week.
Well, he's spot on with what he said, where the other guys aren't. They're just getting rid of the ball so quick. You're going to see a quarterback that drops back there and takes some time, and this will be a true test for the defensive end. He used the word challenge a lot today,
right.
And I think challenge is perfect because that is what this game is going to do. It's going to challenge the Buckeyes in ways that we've had a lot of questions. You're going to see if JT Tuimoloau can get after the quarterback, if Jack Sawyer can, putting his hand back in the ground, finally show what we thought we would see in a third year from Sawyer, and you're going to see that secondary tested. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch the defense on the field. Normally, you want to see the offense out there lighting it up. It's going to be so interesting to see this Buckeye defense out there. I want to ask you, put the quarterbacks aside, what do you think is your biggest takeaway from Ryan Day today?
Well, and it's the question I asked him. I said, and if Ohio State is going to have the kind of season they want to have, they got to be able to run the football. Mm-hmm. And, Ryan Day said after week 1 he was clearly not happy with the running game at Indiana, and he said, we got to get 4 yards a carry. And I asked him today, I said, did you see the improvement you were looking for in your run game with your offensive line? And he was very quick, no.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the biggest takeaway. You have some huge games looming. We knew that it was not going to be easy to fill the shoes of 3 starters. Now they hit the transfer portal, and it takes a while for guys to get used to everything. But this is this is getting to be the point. I don't know how much of a challenge Western Kentucky's defense will be. Mm-hmm. Hopefully this is a game that the offensive line can feel good and get some confidence. But I'm telling you what, that game at South Bend, they had better be ready, and they had better be able to run the football. If they can't run the football at Notre Dame, it could be a long night.
I think what I looked at my biggest takeaway is something we've seen from Ryan Day that we haven't seen a lot from him in his tenure at Ohio State. This is a work in progress. A lot of the times with these teams, they show up, and he kind of said this in the post game with Youngstown State, that they show up on week 1 ready to win a championship. This team is not ready to win a championship. And he genuinely seems, you asked about the run game, a lot of the questions were, where are you most, happy with, satisfied with? Nothing. And that's a good problem to have, because that allows these games to truly be work. It allows them to, you're not going in competitive stamina. Was that what it was last year? Mm-hmm. Everybody had to have competitive stamina because every week you knew you were the better team. This week you're the better team, but you've got a lot of places to actually get better. And I think it's really interesting to see. I said this on air last night. Kind of reminds me of the 2014 year. I think, there's the talent is there. In 2014, obviously they were dealing with the Braxton Miller, JT Barrett thing. Took them a while to find who they were. This team is still finding who they are, and that's not always a bad thing.
Well, if you go by recruiting, and you see the way they recruited. I mean, this team is loaded. Many believe they have the best receiver corps in college football, which I do. They believe they have the best running back core, which I think they do. To me, the biggest question marks with this football team is going to be it all starts with the offensive line.
Yeah.
And you're replacing the center, who's the quarterback of the offensive line. You're replacing your guy that will make the calls and everything, so there's going to be a learning curve there. But you don't just replace 3 starters from a veteran offensive line. You look at Dwan Jones, what he's doing in the NFL. I mean, can you imagine if he was still here? So you've got that, and then you got a rookie quarterback. And so those, as much talent as they have, those 2 things are the great equalizer right now. And if they cannot, and I will say it again, they can throw the football. But if they can't run the ball, it's concerning.
Jimmy Simmons, Jimmy Simmons, has got to grow up a little bit, and I think he knows that. I think Ryan's kind of alluded to that. But that's a part of this. It being in a new offensive line, it's unlike any other unit because everything you do has to move as one. And when you remove, you talk about Dwan Jones, you talk about Paris Johnson, you talk about Luke Whippler. I mean, you're talking about 3 guys that are playing at an NFL level that you've just removed from this offensive line and say, all right, keep moving. You can't take a step back. You have to, because it's all about fluidity. That is the only unit on the field that has to move as one. They will start to mesh. They will start with every rep with Kyle McCord. It'll all start to smooth out. It's tough to be an offensive line and not know the guy that's under center the next rep. Right. So now everything with that unit, I think, will start to grow together. And I think you got to see some improvement out of Jimmy Simmons on that line. And I think you will. And I know nobody's looking ahead. But every snap this week is trying to get ready for what you're going to face next week.
And I think Ryan Day kind of summed it up best when I asked him, and he said, no, I didn't see the improvement I wanted. I think he's going to coach them hard. You know, the one thing you had with those guys that are gone, they had that swagger. They had.
Real quick, I don't know if they could see on camera. He's always just out here working.
Who is that?
That is Marvin and Emeka. Always
just
out
there. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll get off. Why don't you take the camera over and show the folks, and we're going to get off. But just go ahead, go do that.
Mike, we can do it real quick.
Yeah, show the camera.
The hardest working receiver room in America, right there.
Look at that.
Just already putting in work.
They never quit. That's why Kyle McCord will be a success, because he's playing catch with those guys. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
So, all right, Mr. King, anything else, or can we get off from the nice folks? All right, remember one thing, folks. Keep it on 10 TV, and keep it on 10tv.com for all your Buckeye football coverage needs. We're here for you 24/7, 365 days a year.